Hello, Andre Khatchaturian here, Armenian Sports News on a beautiful Memorial weekend here in the United States. Joined along with, as always, Jason Takhtadjian coming at us live from Fresno. We're not live, but I like saying live. But
Forced
Jason,
to
how
have
are
it.
you today?
I'm doing good, man. Doing good. Today is a big day for me because I start to travel to Armenia today for the first time.
Yeah, you were going to Armenia for the first time of your life,
Yep.
and you will be there when Armenia has its two friendly matches. And maybe you can do some nice inside scoop reporting for ASN. But that's
Yep.
it's a week away. We got to focus on the now, and right now we got to focus on the week that was in Armenian sports, and a lot happened, Jason. And I think the biggest story of the week, in my opinion, and we're going to lead the show off with this, is Gegard Mousasi and the drama that came with the PFL and slash Bellator. PFL bought Bellator. Mousasi was a Bellator fighter, and Mousasi released from the PFL roster following controversial comments he made regarding the way the PFL was treating him and the contract, his contract situation, not even the contract situation, mostly the fact that he wasn't getting any fights, and among other things. And here are the full comments he made on the MMA Hour hosted by Ariel Helwani. He said, "If it was up to me, I would just go, but I don't know. We'll see. The team around me is not that happy, so I think there's going to be legal action against them. I feel disrespected because they don't even want to pick up the phone and talk to us. It's not even funny anymore. It's the worst organization so far. I fought in a lot of organizations. This is the worst one." Jason, if you made comments like this
Jeez.
in your workplace, what would they do to you?
They fire me the same day.
Yeah, they fired Musasi the next day because he's a former Bellator champion. But Musasi is now a free agent in MMA
Yeah.
after he called the PFL the worst organization. But I feel like if you're in a toxic work environment, Jason, sometimes these situations are good in the long run. Good for Gerhard. I think in the long run, this will be good for him. If he's fed up with that situation, he's fed up with a toxic situation in the workplace. The silver lining is the fact that he doesn't have to deal with them anymore, and he can pivot and do something better for what's his career.
Right. And a lot of people are already speculating, will he maybe make a return to the UFC? I mean, we need to understand that he's 38. He's not necessarily in the prime of his career, but he still will kick ass if he needs to. And I do believe that he still has some good fights left in his belt. It's just really up to him at this point. And considering how open he was to make comments against this promotion, one would assume that he obviously has a desire to go ahead and fight still. So I guess it's open to the table to see where he's going to land.
Well, let's not forget, Musasi's exit with the UFC was not very amicable either in 2017.
It's true.
He was complaining about the types of fights he was getting, and he was not really happy about how the UFC was promoting him in the middleweight division. At the time when he left, he was on a 5 fight winning streak, and he beat some big names. Vitor Belfort at UFC 204 by knockout. Uriah Hall, he beat him by knockout. And then he beat Chris Weidman in a controversial fight, UFC 210 in Buffalo. I covered that fight, and it was a controversial ending to that fight. You can go look it up yourself. And then after that, he was, I think, the number 5 ranked middleweight contender. And then there were some disputes with his contract, and he decided to sign with Bellator, and they gave him a lot more money, and they gave him a lot more attention. He was like the face of Bellator for a while, won the Bellator middleweight championship twice, defended it a few times up until February 2022, which was his last victory before he lost his last 2 fights. As you said, Jason, he's 38 years old, but this is the type of guy, this is the type of UFC fighter who doesn't seem like he's ready to stop fighting. He has 60 professional fights uh, under his belt. So, this is one of those guys who just like Donald Cerrone, like they just keep fighting and fighting and fighting, and he wants to be
Yeah.
active. And so I don't know, maybe he makes amends with the UFC. I personally think he's done. He's had an amazing career. He has a beautiful family. Maybe he just walks away from the sport. That's what I would do. I would just be content with that. There is life after fighting. You're not going to be fighting forever. The UFC middleweight division is pretty stacked right now. I don't know how he would compete against these fighters when he's lost 2 in a row to Bellator fighters. But Gegard's a different type of animal, and we'll see what he decides.
Yeah, I'm under the impression he's got at least 1 or 2 more fights left in him, but he's nearing the end. I agree.
Everybody wants to walk out on top, so maybe he signs the UFC, battles some cupcake opponents, gets a couple W's, and walks away from the sport as a winner. Moving forward, Mousasi is heading towards the twilight of his career, but another wrestler is just beginning his career. Nicholas Sahakian. He commits to the University of Michigan to wrestle there next year. One of the top-ranked wrestlers in high school wrestling, fighting out of St. John Bosco. And Jason, this guy, number 14 pound-for-pound fighter, but number 1 in the highest weight class division, which is the 285-pound division, which was very confusing for me and for others. Jason, maybe clear that up for the viewers. What does 285 pounds mean?
Even though the division, yeah, it's a huge weight, right? Even though it's 285 pounds, that's what the division is called. It doesn't necessarily mean that the fighters are weighing 285 pounds. When it comes to high school boys wrestling, like you said, 285 is the cap, but the next highest classification is 220 pounds. So if you're heavier than 220 pounds, we're still talking about, big wrestlers here. But they'll be probably around 230, 240, something like that, something more manageable. Because at the end of the day, we're still talking about high schoolers here.
Right. So you don't want, I'm not here to ask why that rule exists, but basically in UFC and boxing, there is no cap on how heavy you can be in a fight. Whereas in high school wrestling, they have it. The highest division has a cap at 285 pounds, and that's the Nicholas Sahakian's number 1 in that division. And with the high school coming to an end, he actually decommitted from Arizona State and chose Michigan. We're seeing this a lot happen in college sports with
that's right,
athlete empowerment, and Sahakian absolutely has the resume to exercise those rights, and he's going to the Big Ten and will be fighting at Michigan. That'll be exciting to see what he does going forward. Sometimes you see these wrestlers either go on to the Olympics or to the UFC, or who knows? We'll see what happens.
Right. And I mean, St. John Bosco, they've been producing some Armenian wrestling talent. I mean, just recently, Gegard Mousasi graduated from his senior year. He was the athlete of the year at St. John Bosco. Now, Nicholas Sahakian has his senior year coming up, and he's coming off of a runner-up finish for the California State title in his weight class. So it'll be interesting to see if that's going to be on Sahakian's mind to win that, along with all the other tournaments that come with high school wrestling.
Yeah, it's incredible time. Imagine being 18 again, Jason, and just dominating your sport and going off to college. Oh, what a time! Peak shape. I mean, look at us now. We're both very fast.
If only I took soccer more seriously.
Horovats, and if only what?
If only I took soccer more seriously.
If only you took soccer more seriously. If only I took baseball more seriously. We wouldn't be hosting this show. We would be
right.
Speaking of soccer, you brought up soccer. Let's talk about FC Pyunik, or Pyunik FC. We're recording this on Saturday, May 25, and earlier today, Pyunik won their 16th Armenian Premier League title with a win over Shirak Gyumri. A 1-0 win. They were able to hold on to their 2-point lead in the division over Noah. Noah had a pretty surprising year. They were actually leading the division heading into the penultimate week 35 last week, and they played Pyunik. Pyunik shut them out 3-0 to take over the division lead, and then went on to win again today for 6 straight victory, 12th consecutive. They had a 12 match unbeaten streak dating back to March 8th. Their last loss was to Vaughan. And with the win today, they clinched the division. And it's a good thing they won, because Noah also won their match 3-1. So they would have won the title had Pyunik not gotten that result. So congratulations to Pyunik, most successful Armenian Premier League team, 16 championships. They're the New York Yankees of Armenia, basically.
I was gonna say almost like the Bayern Munich of the Armenian Premier League. I mean, yeah, they've only played 32 seasons and they've won 16, so they've
It's incredible.
exactly won half of the championships or the league championships rather in this league. And again, it was based off of that 1-0 win against Shirak today. Takhtadjian, Armenian Premier League, Armenian national team player, ended up scoring the game-winning goal, 54th minute. If you don't remember, Dashian's the same guy who scored the goal against Turkey in the 1-1 draw in the Euro qualifiers.
And with the victory, Pyunik will now compete in the Champions League, first qualifying round later on this summer. We'll obviously keep track of that on ASN. And moving forward, Armenian women's national basketball team came back from its 14-year hiatus last weekend in an exhibition match against Redemption. It's a women's Drew League team, actually, and they're pretty talented. And they defeated the Armenian women's national team, but I think the game was more so of a celebration of the return of the team more than anything else.
Yeah, I agree. As much as a win would have been nice, the final result wasn't what really mattered. The fact that they fielded out a team for the first time, like you said, in 14 years, is something to behold. It's something to celebrate, something to work on, because obviously everybody understands that, this is still a new batch of talent with some returning players from the original team coming together and trying to learn how to play with each other for the very first time. Granted, there are some players from the youth teams that have played together, so there is still some chemistry there, like Kayla Keshmeshian or Mary Makarian. But ultimately, it's going to be interesting to see where the women's team goes moving forward, because I'm sure that there's going to be more games happening in LA or just in general, and we're going to see more action from them.
Yeah, and this was basically a tune-up for them as they get ready for the FIBA Small Countries European Championship, which will take place next month. So we'll obviously keep track
Yeah.
of that on ASN. And at the same time, the men's team is going to be playing some exhibitions in Los Angeles against Ireland and Guatemala. So big time for Armenia basketball, big summer for them as they
Yeah.
relaunch both programs. And the men's program has obviously been around for a bit, but they're playing some more meaningful games with head coach Rex Kalamian. And let's go back to the women's team for a bit. You were able to speak to one of the athletes on the women's team, Patil Yakubian, for a feature on Armenian Weekly. What impressions did you get from having that conversation with her, Jason?
Yeah, I mean, she is experienced on multiple levels. She won a gold medal with one of Armenia's youth teams back in 2019, I believe. And she's been through the ups and downs when it comes to an athlete, being able to take her high school career and transition to a college career is something to behold. However, she went through season-ending injury after season-ending injury after season-ending injury. No hyperbole there, three in a row. And that definitely put her back in her career when it comes to the fact that she broke her ankle. She had knee injuries that stemmed from playing for the Armenian national team and not getting it, checked out, and ultimately it flaring up again. Playing 5 games in her sophomore season and having to make the decision to opt out because of injuries, but ultimately finding a way to return to the game last year, coming back to Glendale Community College and coming off the bench for the first time in her career, winning six man of the year and making it all the way to their division final game. They weren't able to win the game, but for her, it's still a victory because she didn't think that she would have even been able to come back to the game, let alone have a significant impact on a team that ended up going 30-3 in the regular season. And now it depends because she's still young. There's a good chance that if she continues her career, she is now going to see sun, and she still has 2 years of eligibility left. Maybe she makes a return to the Armenian national team. And there is the spur of just one example of the Armenian women's national team possibly improving or having more players coming to represent them.
Yeah, it's definitely an exciting time, Jason. And we're going to see a lot more of this team going forward. This is just the beginning, and we're going to see, I think the youth, young girls in the diaspora in Armenia seeing this team, they're getting motivated to play basketball more, and the best is yet to come. And the best is also trying to segue this. The best might be yet to come for Armenian track and field athlete Allison Halverson. She is currently in Armenia this week and Turkey for 3 track and field meets as she tries to be the Armenian representative for the Olympics in track and field. The Armenian National Championships take place next week, where she will be competing in the 100-meter race and the 400-meter hurdles race. She has hopes to qualify for one of those two, or maybe both. Halverson has had a long journey to get to where she is today. She competed at the San Diego State University in track and field, and then competed with the U.S. national track and field team before getting Armenian citizenship and then becoming eligible to compete in world events representing Armenia. And she has been targeting the Olympics for many, many years. She, has a beautiful family living out in Texas, and now is very close to achieving her dream. So we'll keep an eye on her on ASN to see if she's able to qualify for the Olympics. And speaking of the Olympics, one other thing we will be tracking throughout the week are the boxing Olympic qualifiers. We have several Armenians, I believe 10 of them. Am I right, Jason? 10 boxers.
Yeah.
Maybe a few of them are eliminated right now. It's just the second round now, but maybe a couple of them will also qualify for Armenia in boxing. Armenia doesn't have any boxers right now in the Olympics, Jason. What the heck?
I know, right? We've been spoiled with the likes of Hovhannes Bashkov, and now, I think last I checked, there's only 11 total athletes, no boxers, like you said. It's getting to the point now where we're trying to see, once all these tournaments wrap up, how many representatives is Armenia going to have going into France?
Well,
I don't know.
Assuming nobody qualifies in boxing, let's talk worst case scenario here. Right now, as you said, there's 11 athletes, and let's say nobody goes from boxing. The Olympic Committee generally allows one participant from swimming and track and field. Like we mentioned, Allison Halverson's competing for one of those spots. So you can say maybe one from track and field, one from swimming. So that would be 13 total. Hopefully, a couple make it from boxing, and that'll be 15 total, which will be less than 2020. So I believe actually it's one from swimming and one male from swimming and one women from swimming. So it might be 2 swimmers who are allowed eligibility, but we'll see what happens. Well, this will all be figured out in the next few weeks.
For sure. Now, before we move on, Andre, I do want to highlight one more athlete and just want to kind of talk about him. Andre McCutcheon Spight, he has been tearing it up in Argentina, and the regular season of the Liga de Nacional basketball has finished up. I've butchered that name, but it's the Argentinian top Premier Division in the country when it comes to basketball. And he plays for Obras Sanitarias, and he finished as the top scorer, winning the scoring championships, 18.5 points per game for his team, and they've made it to the playoffs as well, thanks to his efforts. I mean, this guy scored 30 twice. He's been, top scorer. He's been on the defensive end, also getting credit, getting multiple games with 3 or more steals as well. So he's been everywhere. He's been making some fantastic plays as well for the team. And something to note about him as well, winning the scoring championship, it's all great, but the season's not over. Like I said, Obras is in the playoffs, and they're matched up against Platense, which Obras ended up playing in the season opener, where Andre Spight scored 31 points, and that was his season high. So he put a season high up against his playoff opponent.
I got to give you credit here for being so well-versed in Argentinian basketball league. So that's why you are who you are, Jason. Before we sign off, we don't have an exclusive interview this week, but we do have a feature, mini doc, if you want to call it, on Eddie and Chris Hakopian. As I've mentioned before, I was out at Boston College covering the 2 brothers who play for the University of Maryland. They were playing Boston College. I went out there and I did a little feature on them, interviewed them and their father about their season playing together and the future they have in baseball. They have lofty goals, and their father Derek was a Major League Baseball draft pick and played in the minors, and now the 2 brothers were the sons of Derek Hakopian, who was drafted by the Cleveland Indians. They have big dreams of being drafted by a major league team as well. So check it out.
Yeah, I remember the first time, logging back onto Instagram and I see Eddie and I got a post from Armenian Sports. We're like, hey, and then we sent it to my father, and it's really cool to just see.
Meet Eddie and Chris Hakopian, two brothers bonded by baseball, family, and Armenia. Eddie and Chris are baseball players at the University of Maryland, and they have dreams of playing in the major leagues.
I think both of us have the same goals, to play at the highest level possible. For him this year, he has an opportunity to go pro next year. And I plan to, try to do that next 2 years.
Yeah, so. I mean, that's the whole goal. Play until they tell me I can't anymore, Like, I love this game so much. It's my whole life, and I just want to take it as far as I can.
The Armenian Bash brothers have a good chance of doing that, as they've both excelled on the field.
And Chris Hakopian deep into left field, hit it high, and watch it fly, Chris!
Chris, a freshman, has adjusted to college baseball quickly.
Yeah, it's been good. It's been a learning process. It's been great to have my older brother here mentoring me.
I mean, he's so mature, and how he goes about his business, sometimes I have to ask him what to do. So
he's being humble.
The senior Hakopian, Eddie, will have the opportunity to follow his father Derek's footsteps and get drafted by an MLB team this summer.
I mean, he's the whole reason. Like he's my idol. He's everything to me.
To have that few strikeouts. Here is a line shot and kiss this one goodbye.
Derek Hakopian was a star player at Maryland, and in 1992 he was drafted by the Cleveland Indians.
To play at my dad's alma mater, wear his number in honor of him, it's something really cool, and right when I got the opportunity to do it, I jumped on it, and I really wanted to do it.
Hakopian played 6 years in the minor leagues, but he never expected his sons to get to where they are today.
Always wanted my boys to play, but never overly pushed them. This is their thing. This is something that they really wanted to do. So to be out here and for it to come sort of full circle and to watch them out here on the field is just amazing. And one's batting leadoff and one's batting second. I don't have time to breathe. It's crazy.
The Bash brothers have enjoyed the rare opportunity of playing together on the same team.
It's definitely been just a dream come true, just something that we've wanted to do for our whole life. So just having the opportunity to do it this year, it's been something really special.
We feel blessed. I mean, we do feel blessed, and sometimes you got to stop and sort of smell the roses, so to speak, because it's like, your competitive side is always like, let's get more, let's hit, because they're trying to be professional baseball players. So I think the competitive side, you're always wanting more, but then sometimes you got to step back and say, hey, these guys are two Division I players, 3 years apart, playing on the field together. This is awesome.
And it goes without saying, the name on the back of their jersey has given them a lot of attention outside the Maryland community and has been a source of pride for the entire Hakopian family.
It's super cool to see. It's something you dream about. Especially to play for our roots and be able to put it on for Armenia. There's not many Armenian baseball players. But it's a lot of fun to be able to represent that country. Yeah. Like you said, we have really strong Armenian roots, grandparents, super Armenian. Our dad always kept us, push it on us to remember where we come from, and it's super cool.
And I've tried to pass that along to the boys, and just make sure they understand that they are Armenian, and like I told you before, one of them will be doing an Armenian walk-up song, so we'll definitely get that going.
And that's all we have for you this week on the ASN podcast. Enjoy your Memorial Weekend, everybody, and see you next time. And Jason, safe travels to Armenia.
I appreciate it. Thank you.